between noodle casseroles and the ringing phone, and the endless lipstick kisses of neighbors and women who call themselves aunties, but instead, he is here in the entryway to what is now my father's house, waiting to be received. I close my eyes. Maybe if I cannot see him, he will stop looking for me. Maybe I will fold into this ostentatious May day, the sun shining like a woman talking loudly on a cell phone at lunch. Who invited you here? I tuck the cigarette into the pocket of my jeans. I cannot yet conceive of a world without her. What that will look like, who I am in her absence. I am incapable of understanding that she will not pick me up for lunch on Tuesdays, parking without a permit on the curb by my house and running inside with a bag full of something, groceries, skincare products, a new sweater she bought at Off Fifth. I cannot comprehend that if I call her phone, it will just ring and ring, that there is no longer anyone on the other end who will say, "Katy, honey, just a second, my hands are wet." I do not imagine ever coming to terms with the loss of her body, her warm, welcoming body, the place I always felt at home. My mother, you see, is the great love of my life. She is the great love of my life, and I have lost her. "Eric, come on in. You were standing out there?" I hear my father's voice from inside, welcoming Eric in. Eric, my husband who lives in our house, 12.5 minutes away in Culver City, who has taken a leave of absence from Disney, where he is a film executive, to be with me during this trying time, whom I've dated since I was 22, 8 years ago, who takes out the garbage and knows how to boil pasta and never leaves the toilet seat up, whose favorite show is Modern Family, and who cried during every episode of Parenthood, whom, just last night, I told in our kitchen, the kitchen my mother helped me design, that I did not know if I could be married to him anymore. If your mother is the love of your life, what does that make your husband? "Hey," Eric says when he sees me. He steps outside, squints. He half waves. I turn around. On the glass patio table, there is a spread of slowly curling cheese. I'm wearing dark jeans and a wool sweater, even though it is warm outside. Because inside the house it is freezing. My mother liked to keep a house cold. My father only knows the way it's been. "Hi," I say. He holds the door open for me, and I step past him inside. Despite the temperature, the house is still as welcoming as ever. My mother was an interior designer, well respected for her homey aesthetic. Our house was her showpiece. Oversized furniture, floral prints, and rich pattern textures. Ralph Lauren meets Laura Ashley meets a very nice pair of Todd's loafers and a crisp white button-down. She loved textiles, wool, linen, the feel of good stitching. There was always food in the fridge, wine in the side door, and fresh-cut flowers on the table. Eric and I have been trying to plant an herb garden for the past 3 years. I smile at Eric. I try to arrange my mouth in a way I should remember, but that feels entirely impossible now. I do not know who I am anymore. I have no idea how to do any of this without her. "Katy, you're grieving," he said to me last night. "You're in crisis. You can't decide this now. People don't get divorces in the middle of a war. Let's give it some time." What he did not know is that I had given it months. Ever since my mother got sick, I'd been thinking about the reality of being married to Eric. My decision to leave Eric had less to do with my mother's death and more to do with the remembrance of death in general, which is to say, I began to ask myself if this was the marriage I wanted to die in, if this was the marriage I wanted to see me through this, my mother's illness, and what would, impossibly, remain after. We didn't have kids yet. We were still kids ourselves, weren't we? Eric and I met when we were both 22, seniors at UC Santa Barbara. He was an East Coast liberal, intent on going into politics or journalism. I was a Los Angeles native, deeply attached to my parents and the palm trees, and felt that 2 hours away was the farthest I could possibly go.